Ukamaka settled into her new life in the city with great excitement. Mrs. Ugodinma, a kind and hardworking woman, treated Ukamaka like one of her own children. Her house was large and beautifully furnished. Unlike anything Ukamaka had ever seen in her village, it felt like a dream come true. She thought to herself, "This is what I've always wanted." Mrs. Ugodinma kept her word and enrolled Ukamaka in one of the best schools in the city. She bought her new clothes, books, and everything she needed to feel comfortable. "You are part of this family now," Mrs. Ugodinma said, smiling warmly. "All I ask is that you help me take care of Chizaram and Kamsi when I travel." Ukamaka nodded eagerly, hiding her true intentions behind the mask of gratitude. She appeared diligent and caring at first, playing with the children and helping them with their homework. Mrs. Ugodinma trusted her completely. "I knew I made the right choice," she often told herself. But as time passed, Ukamaka's true nature began to surface. She started making friends with people in the neighborhood, some of whom had questionable characters. She admired the flashy lifestyles and began to crave the wealth and attention they had. These new friends introduced her to the darker side of the city life: parties, drinking, and an unquenchable lust for money. Ukamaka's behavior at home began to change. She became cold and hostile towards Chizaram and Kamsi. She would yell at them for minor mistakes, force them to do all the house chores, and sometimes refuse to give them food. When Mrs. Ugodinma called from her travels to check up on them, Ukamaka would paint a rosy picture. "The children are fine, auntie. We miss you," she would say sweetly, while secretly tormenting the girls. Chizaram and Kamsi were terrified of Ukamaka. She threatened them daily, saying, "If you tell your mother about how I treat you, I will burn you alive. No one will find out and no one will save you." The girls, too scared to speak up, endured her abuse in silence. As her greed for money grew, Ukamaka began stealing from Mrs. Ugodinma. She took cash, jewelry, and valuable items from the house, selling them to fund her lavish outings with her new friends. Soon, this wasn't enough to satisfy her. She wanted to be one of the big girls in the city. So she started engaging in even more despicable activities. Ukamaka began to associate with older men who lavished her with money and gifts in exchange for her time. But even this wasn't enough. Her desperation drove her into a sinister idea, using Chizaram and Kamsi to make more money. One fateful evening, Ukamaka approached the terrified girls. "Listen," she hissed, her eyes cold and bitter. "You are going to do exactly what I say, or I'll make sure you regret it. There are men who are willing to pay good money for pretty girls like you. If you don't cooperate, I will kill you both and bury your bodies where no one will find them." The girls sobbed, pleading with her, but Ukamaka was unmoved. She carried out her vile plan, taking the girls to meet strangers who paid her to have their way with them. Afterwards, Ukamaka warned them never to speak of it. "If anyone finds out, I'll make sure you suffer," she snared. Chizaram and Kamsi's life became a nightmare. They were constantly in pain and emotionally broken. At school, their teachers and friends began to notice their withdrawn behavior. Once lively and cheerful, the girls now avoided everyone, refusing to speak or make eye contact. Their teacher, concerned, tried to reach out to them, but they insisted they were fine, claiming they were just sick and on medication. Despite the growing concern, no one could uncover the truth. Ukamaka was cunning and had taken additional steps to hide her crimes. She got a charm, a very powerful charm, to control the girls. The charm made them appear healthy and cheerful in public, even when they were suffering inside. It also silenced them, preventing them from speaking out against her. For years, Ukamaka's reign of terror continued unnoticed. She grew bolder, spending more money, attending more parties, and deepening her involvement in the city's underworld. Meanwhile, Chizaram and Kamsi's lives deepened further into despair. One day, the school decided to host a program about child abuse, human trafficking, and other sensitive topics. The goal was to educate the students about their rights and what to do if they found themselves in dangerous situations. The headmistress invited motivational speakers, counselors, and a pastor to address the students. As the program went on, Chizaram and Kamsi sat quietly, listening to the speakers talk about abuse and exploitation. These words struck a chord with them, but they remained silent, too afraid to act. Their friends, noticing the discomfort, tried to encourage them to open up, but the girls only shook their heads and forced a smile. When the pastor stood up to speak, he began with a powerful prayer. As he prayed, something unusual happened. The pastor paused and turned to look at Chizaram and Kamsi. His expression changed, and he walked towards them, his voice filled with authority. "These two girls," he said, pointing at them. "There is a dark spirit surrounding them. They are being tormented." The crowd gasped, and the headmistress quickly called Mrs. Ugodinma, urging her to come to the school immediately. Thankfully, she was in town and rushed over without delay. When Mrs. Ugodinma arrived, the pastor began to pray over the girls, breaking the spiritual chains that had bound them. As he prayed, the charms Ukamaka had used were destroyed, and the girls began to cry uncontrollably. The pastor turned to Mrs. Ugodinma and said, "Your daughters have been through unimaginable pain. The person responsible for this is the very one you trusted to care for them." Mrs. Ugodinma was stunned. "Who could do such a thing to my children?" she asked, her voice trembling. The pastor replied, "Call Ukamaka here. She has so much to answer for." When Ukamaka arrived at the school, her mask of pretense fell away as she realized the charms were broken and the truth was about to come out. She tried to run, but the school security guard stopped her. She was dragged before the pastor, Mrs. Ugodinma, and the crowd. The full extent of her betrayal was about to be revealed. The confrontation marked the beginning of the unraveling of Ukamaka's dark secrets and the horrifying truth about her mother's role in the destruction of the family.